Welcome to the Leadership Upgrade Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin. In this podcast, we explore what it truly takes to become the kind of leader that people trust, respect, and want to follow. If you're a high achieving entrepreneur or executive and you want to upgrade your leadership from the inside out, this is the place for you. So welcome. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes where we dive deep into conscious leadership, personal mastery, and building organizations that thrive. And if you want a full blueprint for upgrading your leadership, check out my new book, Lead Yourself First, the High Achiever's Guide to Upgrade Your Leadership. Grab a copy today by visiting upgradeyourleadership.com. Join the movement and upgrade your leadership. Now, let's get down to today's episode. Welcome to the Leadership Upgrade, episode 7. I'm Dr. Kevin Mays. I was reflecting on a quote from Nietzsche. That which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And it seems in our culture that suffering has become considered a prerequisite for success. We suffer. We create our own suffering and believe that somehow, without pain, there is no gain. The reality is, most of the suffering and the pain that we experience isn't external, but it's internal. And we validate our own pain through the nature of the narratives in our culture and our society. However, what I found is that the best leaders and the best executives are the ones who have come to terms with their own suffering. They've come to terms with their own self-doubt. They've come to terms with the narrative that they've construct and create that keeps them down. And it's not that they don't have it anymore, but they change their relationship with it. I was recently having dinner with a colleague of mine, actually a client of mine, who's an executive for a large company. And after listening to these podcasts and reading the book, he said, man, the thing you need to talk about is what you've helped me with. The secret to my success is overcoming my own self-doubt, the imposter syndrome. Today, I'd like to dig into imposter syndrome, what it is, why we have it, where it comes from, and how to get rid of it, if it's even possible, if we even want to at all. My friend, an executive for a large company, I'll call him David. Now, David was struggling. In the company he was in, he wasn't getting acknowledged, wasn't getting recognized, wasn't getting the promotion. This lack of external validation actually created a narrative in his own mind that somehow he didn't fit. He didn't have what it takes. He didn't belong. It was interesting to see the struggle that ensued and the suffering that came not from the external world, not from what he was perceiving, but what he was conceiving. And in fact, this is what humans do, right? It's not our perception that creates our struggle and our suffering. It's our conception. I think of our dogs. We have a dog. It's a pug. Izzy, the wonder dog. She's amazing. She doesn't conceive. She doesn't have narratives in her mind. If she does, they're really limited, right? What she really has is perception. And she can see patterns. Every morning when I get up and put my socks on, she knows it's about time to go for a walk. She starts running in circles. She gets really excited, but she's not reflecting on what happened yesterday and reflecting on what's going to happen tomorrow. And she's not creating a lot of anxiety and stress for herself. She's not creating anger, regret, and shame for herself. She's not thinking about what she should have done, what she could have done. No, instead, she's just fully present in the moment. You've never seen a happier dog in your life. Izzy the Wonder Pug. She's amazing. The kids love her. Everybody loves her. She's kind of a local celebrity because of that quality she brings. And over the lifetime and eons of lifetimes of pugs, they've been bred to to be lapdogs and to be super friendly and amenable. And she brings that personality wherever she goes. So it's just kind of cool to see that. And I say all this just to, as a preface, to think about how it is we go from perception to conception, and from conception to struggle and to suffering. Let's break it down. What's the difference? Perception is simply that. It's what we perceive in the moment. It's just reality as it is. And with a clear window, we see reality as it is. However, we then begin to compare it against an internal narrative and create and construct an internal narrative based on our perception. That is conception. We find meaning in the world around us. We find things that we like and things that we don't like. And when we find things that we like, it validates us and it creates a positive sensation in our body that we crave. We want more of that positive sensation. So we move towards it. And when we see things that don't fit our internal narrative, we avert, right? Craving and aversion. We move away from the things that don't feel good, the things we don't like. And so we therefore stay in our comfort zone. And the hard thing, when I go back to thinking about how it is we create this imposter syndrome for ourselves, we get it legitimately. And most executives I work with, if they're honest with themselves, they have it at some level. Most leaders have it at some level, this sense of self-doubt. If we don't, we're kind of burying our head in the sand because we got it legitimately, right? We came into the world without self-doubt. But we learned that the way we were in our natural state was not okay, right? You can't crap your pants. That's not okay. You learn to be a big boy. Use the toilet, right? To be crass about it, use your inside voice. Don't throw that ball in the hallway. Don't throw the ball inside. Don't have muddy boots inside. Use your inside voice. We gain so many instructions about what's okay and what's not okay. And in fact, as I've said before, if you've read Lead Yourself First, you understand deeply that we come into the world this infinite potential and feral, and we learn domestication. We become domesticated, and we learn that being feral is not okay, and we constrain ourselves. We constrain that infinite life source that's flowing through us at an early age. We learn it's not okay. We learn we are not okay unless we behave a particular way. And when we fit that mold, we get validation and we believe we're okay. So we move through the world, whether we're aware of it or not, stuck in these ingrained patterns, seeking validation, whatever that looks like. And people get validation in all the craziest ways. There are people who are rebels who push against, and their validation comes when they create a firestorm because it gives them purpose. Then there are those who are the family heroes, the traditional. They follow the rules, they do what they should, and they get validation through following the norm and being the leader. There's the leader, there's the rebel without a cause, there's the rule follower and the rule breaker. There's all these rules we play. We learn to play based on that neural fabric we lay down in the first 3 years of our lives. And so many executives are still playing out the same pathway, learning that underneath it all, when they look at themselves, they believe that at some level they're not okay. They're not good enough, right? Because we learn that system of constraint. We learn to be a hard worker. We learn to be responsible. We learn to be pleasing. That's not really who we are. It's just the patterns we adopt, and it's the personality we develop. Now, fast forward decades later, and you're still playing out those same patterns. And when they don't fulfill you, when they don't receive validation, we start to create doubt. That's where suffering comes from. See, suffering doesn't come from the external world at all. The external world just is. The sensations in our body just are. Pain is just pain. But when we want it to be different than it is, then we create suffering. So as executives and leaders, we have this role we've learned to fulfill and play. And our suffering and our self-doubt comes when we believe somebody's going to see different, see through, to see the fact that we really don't measure up. We really don't add up. We're really not good enough. We're a loser. We suck at some form, right? Underneath it all, we believe this. And it's really, it's interesting to me that as humans and as leaders, we learn to compensate from this lack by attaching ourselves to these success scripts, these drivers, to be ultra responsible, ultra competitive, to win, to be right. Whatever the story is, it's a compensatory process because underneath it all, we learn that we're not okay. So we compensate for not being okay by overperforming. Now, fast forward decades, and we're still playing the same role out, but now we move through the world with this fear that people are going to see through. They're going to see that we really don't measure up, that we really don't add up. We have this imposter syndrome. We think somehow other people have it figured out, and we don't. The reality is, this is the beautiful thing. When you really start to dig in, as I have with thousands of executives and hundreds of leadership teams, you find that humans are cut from the same mold. Underneath it all is this insecurity. There's a veil across. And when you pull the veil back, there's insecurity. And insecurity that gets projected onto others and onto the environment around. So the reality is, if you understand at a base level, there is insecurity. There is this sense of a ghost, I call it. We all have this internal ghost that'll haunt us at times. This ghost that says we're not good enough, we don't measure up. And it is that... It's the devil's advocate. It's just the devil. It's the devil within. It's the ghost within. And it's this part of us that is believes we're not, it's the imposter syndrome, right? We believe we're not good enough. And again, I've seen it through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of leaders. And the question is not so much, do we have it? Because we do. The question is, what do you do with it? How do you manage this? I'm thinking about one individual, the individual I mentioned earlier, David, how he managed it, right? How do you let go of this? How do you keep it from undermining and sabotaging the life you're trying to correct? The life you're trying to create, rather, and you have to correct your pathway. So how do you create a life on purpose, and intentional, regardless of what's haunting you in the background? And what I watched David do and what I helped him do was step one, become aware. You see, without awareness, we're destined to do the same thing again and again and again and again. And I can say with complete certainty what you're going to do if you don't have awareness. I can tell you what I've done without awareness. I walk blindly and ridiculously into the same patterns, the same pathways. And I end up as a 50-some-year-old man feeling like I'm in trouble because I didn't dot my I's or cross my T's in a way that left my client happy. So as an individual who learned to be a pleaser, now here it is, decades later, I show up, and if one of my clients is displeased in me or calls out something I've done, it can leave an unnaturally large impact in me. And I feel I don't sleep at night and I get anxious if I'm not aware. It's under the surface. So they say ignorance is bliss. There's some truth to that. However, it's bliss at the surface level. Underneath, if you really dig back, there's this repository of anxiety, of stress, of guilt, of shame. And guess what? All this adds to. You might say, if you don't know it, great, who cares? But it's back there and it haunts you. And it's one of the reasons why you see so many, such high levels of alcoholism, such high levels of stress and heart disease and heart attack and stroke. All this stuff doesn't go away. It's a storehouse inside of us, and we carry it as executives. Now, if you're an executive and you're carrying this stuff and you're not aware of it, it impacts the way you show up with 100% certainty. When you get triggered, you come off as short, sharp, or condescending in a way that does not help you carry the weight forward. It doesn't help you create that enlightened environment that all good executives are trying to create. Right? And really, you have to ask yourself, what is the role that I should be in as a leader, as an executive? And how is that different or similar than the role I'm actually playing? You see, and what I find when you ask that question, you can't help but stop and recognize that you're trapped in the confines and constraint of your own mind. You're staying in your comfort zone, doing what you believe you should. You're the hard worker. You're the responsible one. You're the one making everybody happy. But you're not the one who's showing up as the leader the organization needs. And when you start to ask yourself, what is the leader that is needed in this situation? And you make decisions that are aligned with that, regardless of how it feels, you start to enter into a deeper level of power within yourself. As hedonists, right? What do so many leaders do? They let the way they feel drive their behavior. You get frustrated, you get upset, you start to make decisions that are based on that emotion, and you make decisions that are rash, but often that come off, right? People see it. What people see our behavior, they see us come off as condescending and sarcastic and short and like as if we don't care. Well, Simon Sinek said the leader who wins is the one who cares the most. No, I don't know if that's true or not, but I can tell you this, that if there's a perception that you don't care, it's absolutely going to undermine the results you're trying to get. So why is it that leaders come off as not caring? Oh, it goes back to that ego identity you form, those success scripts. It's the way, if you're callous, if you're tough, if you're uncaring, if you never let them see a sweat and you're not vulnerable, then that was probably the pathway you laid down early on that got your attention needs met. It was not only a survival pattern, it was a pattern that helped you to thrive. When you were 3 and 5 years old, now you're still playing out the same pattern. I can't tell you how many examples I've seen of leaders who are caught in these patterns, and then they develop an airtight logic. Heck, I develop an airtight logic. I'm good at being right? I'm good at having the answer. I'm good at being right. But I'll tell you what, being right does not get me the results I want in my life. Not in my relationships, not with my clients. They want somebody who's right, telling them they're wrong. My wife sure doesn't. No, that's not how you win the game, right? If you win the game, it's a team sport. Nobody goes out of this thing without having a team along the way. And so it's like, how do you elevate others in you? Not by being right, but by listening, by having empathy, by being curious. And when you can step into that place of empathy and curiosity, despite how you feel, despite how your mind might be screaming in that moment, our minds scream, they recoil, they rebel against, and try to defend the ego. That's what our mind will naturally do if we're not paying attention. And recognize every time our mind does that, there's some connected emotion. There's some emotion that we experience in those moments that is usually out of our awareness, that is connected with and anchored with that reactive thought process. So the question is, how do you gain awareness of this thought process that undermines you? And how do you gain awareness of the sensations in your body, the feeling that's anchored to the thought process? And it all comes back to one thing and one thing only: attention. You see, the more you could learn to harness and control your attention, I've heard it said that pay attention because attention pays. And what you pay attention to is the thing that will pay off. So if you're paying attention to what you don't want, you're paying attention to all the suffering and struggle in the world, you're paying attention in the way that leaves you as a victim, guess what? You're going to get more of that. If you pay attention to what's working, what's right, if you pay attention to creating gratitude and abundance, you're going to get more of that. When you then let your self-doubt sneak in, right? And the self-doubt is just a form of our ego that's undermining us. And when that sneaks in and starts to dictate and drive our self-concept, we are absolutely devastatingly undercutting our impact in this lifetime. The thing I think is fascinating is when you peel back the layers enough, peel back the layers of attachment and those success scripts we've developed early on that allow us to be okay, to compensate for the self-doubt underneath. When you peel that further and further and further back, you get to the root, you get to this raw, unadulterated, unbridled emotion and energy and raw thought, unformulated consciousness. You get to conscious awareness. At a core level, you get basic goodness. You get brilliant sanity. You get intrinsic health. This is what's under the surface for every leader and every executive, if you can learn how to find it. If you can learn to develop the presence, to be able to transcend and to cut through all the narratives and the self-concept you spent your life creating. And this is why it's the leadership upgrade, right? We're talking about how do you upgrade your leadership in much the same way you upgrade the software of a computer. Unbeknownst to most leaders and executives out there, you're operating on the same software you installed at age 3. The work is to upgrade your software, to eliminate the viruses, and that you all have a lot of viruses. I have viruses still at play after decades of doing this work. There's still a virus that'll sneak in. And sometimes when I'm not paying attention, the old software takes over. What does that look like when the software takes over? It looks like you fall into command and control in your leadership. You start telling people what to do, or you don't raise your voice enough, or you don't push back. You don't demand to be heard. Right? There's recognize that so often we fall into a role at work, and the role gets us the result that we're currently facing and that our environment and our organization is experiencing. If you want to change that result, you change the way you're showing up into the role. You don't focus on the external thing you want to change. You focus on the internal thing you want to change. If you want to upgrade your organization, you must upgrade yourself. That's why the book is titled Lead Yourself First, right? The High Achiever's Guide to Upgrade Your Leadership. And there are ways to do this because, as the original teaching says, with your thoughts, you create the world. Change your thinking. And nothing is more dear than your self-concept. That's the core thought. Start changing your core thought about yourself, about the world, about your place in it, and recognize that as you grasp and cling for certainty in your world and you attach yourself to your ideas, you're running 180 degrees away from wisdom. And the real path of executive excellence is a path of wisdom, right? The path to overcome that imposter syndrome is a path to wisdom. It's not about letting go of the self-doubt, but stepping into it and seeing it for what it is. For what is self-doubt? But a fleeting thought and an emotion, a feeling in your body. And that's it. There's no truth in it. The truth is being able to stand in the moment of your own self-doubt and just sizzle in the moment with whatever it feels like, with whatever your thought is clamoring, whatever your thoughts are clamoring to tell you, and not react. Just be present and then make a decision. What's the leader in this situation need to do? Not what do you need to do? Not what feels good. What do I need to do in this moment? When David did this again and again, he found himself in an organization he recognized he simply wasn't a fit for. And he had to ask himself, in this one lifetime I have, what's the leader in me need? And he realized that his gift on planet Earth was not going to be recognized and achieved in his current organization. He boldly stepped and quit his job and found a place. Talk about stepping off the cliff, right? Talk about trust. That's powerful. When you have that kind of trust in yourself, in your own leadership, in the way the world works, when you step out of your comfort zone and what do they say? You open one door, close one door, others open. Man, that's what he found. And I found that many times myself when I realized that I was too much in a comfort zone. My world became small. I had to shake things up and make massive disruptive changes in my life. And when I did that and I closed doors, other doors opened. And well, you find it with clients, right? Often you'll stay connected with a client because they might be providing revenue, even though they're completely not a fit and they are a thorn in your side. And when you finally let them go, others fill the void. But until you let them go, they don't. If you want to evolve, you have to make those hard decisions. The hard decisions that will evoke your own doubts, maybe evoke your anxiety. And the work is the real mental toughness comes from being able to be present through all of that, not let it drive and dictate how you show up. And as David's story ends, he winds up as an executive in a new organization where his pathway is all up, and he realizes that he's not going to settle for anything other than his CEO role, and that's what's in front of him. He's evolved, and as he evolved, the world that he perceives evolves. The self-doubt is not gone. It still creeps in, but now he sees it for what it is. It's a fleeting thought. It's a ghost. It's nothing more than that. It's nothing more than a ghost and a fleeting thought, and it's not true, and it's not real, and it doesn't deserve to rent space in your brain. The more you can keep those self-limiting beliefs and that imposter syndrome, the more you can keep it from renting space in your head and just recognize it for what it is, that old, outdated pattern of software playing itself out, the more you see it for what it is and don't react to it, it loses its power. And as it loses its power, you can replace it with a deeper presence, an executive presence, a presence that allows you to truly own your existence in your organization and on earth. A presence that allows you to be the most powerful executive possible and recognize leadership is only leadership when it's making others better. It starts with leading yourself, making yourself better. And that requires tearing down some of the infrastructure that you built over the course of your lifetime. And it requires eliminating, knocking down the walls, knocking down the ridge posts, and eliminating that structure of ego that you've created, and being in the empty space of not knowing, because that is the empty space of pure potential, right? That is the empty space of your intrinsic health and your brilliant sanity. That's the empty space of infinite wisdom. By stepping into that place and getting more and more familiar with it, you'll find your relationship with that self-doubt changes. It's not that the self-doubt goes away, but it doesn't own you the same way. Now it's just like a cloud floating through the sky. There it is. For a moment, the sun is gone from view, but it's still there. And you know it's still there. It's always there. Sometimes you can't see it because that self-doubt gets thick. And our anxiety is connected to the self-doubt. And when you start to believe it, suddenly the whole sky is filled with clouds. But don't forget, when your sky is filled with clouds, the sun is always there. And the more you remember that, you can start to part the clouds in the sky and live in that wide open sky of mind, the wide open sky of conscious awareness and presence that allow you to lead your life on purpose. That is the cornerstone of how great leaders overcome that pattern of self-doubt, how they overcome that imposter syndrome that brings so many down and limits so many great leaders. So if you want to be a great leader, the first step is to tame the relationship with yourself. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. When you gain that kind of mastery, the world becomes full of choices. Without that mastery, the choices are forced upon you. So don't be a victim. Become the one who is in charge. Row the boat with ownership, awareness, and accountability, right? Having the oar to create the vision and the destination that you decide. And don't forget, download the book. We have it on audio, video. No, it's not on video. It's on audio. And it's in Kindle form. It's in hardcover and softcover. Lead yourself first. Commit yourself. Become the best version of yourself. And watch how you rise in your organization. Watch how doors open for you in your organization. Watch how you lead better, you lead on purpose, and your life finds a deeper meaning. For now, this is Dr. Kevin saying, thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Hey, thanks for joining us on today's Leadership Upgrade podcast. Now, if you want to continue to challenge your ideas about leadership while increasing your influence, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with someone you know who wants to become a more inspired executive. If you're ready to take the next major step in upgrading your leadership, don't forget to grab a copy of Lead Yourself First, the High Achiever's Guide to Upgrade Your Leadership, available now. Just go to Upgrade Your Leadership now to secure your copy of the book. And we have additional resources available for those who are truly committed to becoming better. So download the workbook, get the book, and put yourself on a path to become the best version of yourself as a leader. Remember, before you can truly lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself. See you on the next episode. For now, this is Dr. Kevin wishing you well.